something else as well. I want to see what you two think about this. This Snyder cut of the Justice League, I don't know how long they've been producing it. It feels like the whole of lockdown this has been coming. I've seen about 70 trailers, and yet he said this was the first official one, which didn't make any sense to me either. The original, have you seen the original Justice League, like the one that came out 3 years ago?
No, so
it is, I would genuinely say, one of the worst films I've ever seen. It was awful, like really, really, really bad. And yet they're putting it out again. They spent, I can't remember how much money it was, silly, to let Zack Snyder come back and finish it. And he's just memeing on people. I mean, he got Joker to say we live in a society. Like, he knows that's a joke, and he's put that in his film. I mean,
so for a bit of context, Harry, kind of what's the significance of this film coming back? Because we've already said that it was an awful first release.
Yeah.
What's kind of happened since then to get a
long story short? This is HBO as well, actually, who are taking this. So it's going out on HBO Max, their streaming service. Warner Brothers, who own the right to DC and the Justice League, produced a Justice League film that was being directed by Zack Snyder. However, I think he had personal issues or something, and he ended up leaving production halfway through, and they handed it off to Joss Whedon, who is of the Avengers. Is that? Oh no, is that the Russos? I can't remember. Joss Whedon's done something famous. He's a big director. Anyway, right. He came in, put it out. It was rubbish. It made no sense. I don't even know. I've run out of superlatives to describe this film because it just didn't work. It doesn't. Nothing about it's right. It looks bad. The story's bad. The acting's bad. The characters are all over the place. Some of the CGI as well. They spent something like $20 million removing in post-production Henry Cavill's moustache for another film. Yeah, and it doesn't look right.
So one of the actors was doing another role at the same time, and that actor needed a moustache, and they decided he can keep it, and we'll just try and remove it in post, all of it.
But the maddest thing is, in post, the hardest two things to animate about the human face are the eyes and the mouth, because the mouth has all these issues of anytime you make any sort of movement with your mouth, there could be anything, it could be even breathing. Your pores and your skin move around the mouth, and they don't move in a way that you sort of can animate really easily unless you've got facial tracking. And it's the same with the eyes. So when it comes to animate the top of his mouth, they don't even have a frame of reference to go by because the moustache is covering what he would be saying. But they didn't go back and take samples of other things Henry Cavill's done, and they didn't get him in to just shoot the same scenes and then paste his face on. They just said, we'll
give it a go.
We'll airbrush it, and it looks awful. Anyway, this film came out. It sucked. Everyone came down on it really hard. And then one random fan wrote online, like, release the Snyder cut, as in Zack Snyder, the original director. This hashtag was trending for ages. And then I think Warner Brothers was sort of like, we've screwed this franchise so hard after all the money we've put in, we might as well see if we can get him to do the full film again. So it's coming out as a 5-hour series, 5 one-hour episodes instead of a film. It's got a lot more stuff in it that it didn't have originally. So they've recast all of the villain antagonist element. They've reanimated all of that as well because it didn't look good. They've got the Joker from Suicide Squad in. So Jared Leto's in this, even though he wasn't in the first one that came out. They've got all these love interests and all this other stuff that wasn't in the original film. I think they've cut out quite a lot of the rubbish comedy that was in it because there was a lot of like, good chat sort of comedy that was just, I don't know, it didn't make, they'd be literally really dying good, and then Batman would make like a quip and it'd be, what are you doing, cuz? Just lock in, do you know what I mean? And it wasn't good. So, I mean, have you seen the trailer? The trailer looks cool, but I think every trailer looks cool. Do you know what I mean? You just put some nice music on it and some action and you're going to like it.
No, I haven't seen the trailer, but, for everything that we've just talked about, this is an interesting film to say the least. It's kind of been as a direct call of viewers, which is interesting. Don't normally see that kind of thing, I think, in the film industry. And because the first one was so awful, there's quite a big expectation that this one's going to be a lot better. Some kind of cult following for Zack Snyder. I think people think this is going to be some incredible release. Obviously, it's not come out yet, so that's where the big expectation comes from with this one.
Yeah,
we were talking last week about like film trends going forward, and I feel like it would be quite fitting if this film was like the last hurrah of the superhero films.
I'd love it to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you bothered in the sense that you would go and, say this was coming out in the cinemas, would you go and watch this? Are you intrigued enough now that you would?
My problem with these, and it's like quite a kind of basic level problem, is that I never got started up again when Henry Cavill was Superman. So for all the DC stuff, I basically I'm really out of the loop. So I feel like if I were to watch Justice League, I'd need to watch, Man of Steel, Superman?
Man of Steel, and then there was another bad film, Batman vs Superman.
Yeah, and then I need to kind of catch up with all of them before I can get into it, which I kind of should get around to doing. But you hear reviews for each of them, and you're kind of like, oh, it's not quite enough to convince me that it's worth it.
Yeah, honestly, shocking. The thing was with DC, I've seen all these films because they've taken so long to pump them out, but none of them were any good. So I wasn't going to Justice League thinking, oh, this is the last hurrah. Because at least with the Marvel films, a couple of them are all right. Do you know what I mean? Thor Ragnarok was a really good film. I'll straight up say that. It was a really good Marvel film. Or even a couple of the other ones, I was at least like, the protagonist is mildly interesting, or I don't mind this plot, or they put in the effort. But the DC ones are so bad. So I'm quite interested. I mean, I think Zack Snyder's gone balls to the wall when he just said, I'm just going to make a film I want to make and see if people like it. I'd quite like, though, this to set a precedent of if fans really didn't like something, production houses putting the effort to redo it. Because I sort of rate that from Warner Brothers. They're typically a studio wouldn't do that either.
We saw it with that Sonic film, didn't we? I don't know if this is a topic for another day, but this happened with that Sonic film. So I don't know. It's out, isn't it? It came out a while ago.
And there's a second one coming out. It was good enough that they're getting a sequel.
So what happened was like the animation of Sonic, who's a fictional hedgehog, was like terrible when they released the trailers for it. They just got it wrong. They just got the shape of the face, the character, just completely wrong. And it was kind of what the situation, like what are you guys doing? And it led the production house, whoever it was, I don't know, to be honest.
It's Paramount. It's another big one.
Yeah, Paramount. So massive production house. They just decided, okay, people have said that this is not good enough, and they just reanimated the whole thing. And from what I understand, it was actually quite successful, as we've heard. They're now going to get a second one. So interesting. So that's the news. That's quite, news.